Hello and welcome. This is my friend. Today we are going to create this cool 3D hand inside of Blender. It's going to be a lot of fun and we are going to learn a lot of cool tips and tricks along the way. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So I have my Blender opened. I'm using Blender 3.1. You can follow along with any version of Blender as well. So we go to new file. So we start with general. We have our default cue, our light, and then the camera. Let's select the light and quickly delete them. We have our cube here in the middle. Next, we're going to tab into edit mode right here. Make sure all the points are selected. We hit M. Then we're going to merge all of the points into a single point at the center. Next, we are going to go to our right orthographic view and then add two modifiers to the point. The first will be the skin modifier, and then the second one will be the subdivision surface modifier. Make sure they are stacked in the right order, else we're not going to achieve the desired results if the stack is changed. So first is skin modifier, and then second is the subdivision surface modifier. Next, I'm going to extrude this point by hitting E and then Z top like this, so that we have our hand like this. So the way the skin modifier works is it creates a skin around the edge of your model. So this edge right here, let me hit extrude too so that you can see. So this edge is going to create a skin around it. Okay, and this diameter determines the thickness of the skin. So the way to increase or decrease it is using Ctrl A. So if I hit Ctrl A, I can increase it. So when you select the point and you hit Ctrl A, you can either increase or decrease the diameter, the thickness of your skin. Okay, so next I'm going to select this bottom point and I'm going to make it the root. So that will be the starting point of our hand. Next, I'll select this edge, E to extrude, and then Z. So we extrude it up like this, and we're going to mark this point as loose since we're going to derive several points from this one point. So I'll hit mark loose, and this will be marked as a loose point. Next, to create our several hand, do E to extrude. I'm going to bring it somewhere here. I'll select this E. I'm going to extrude it to somewhere here. E, and I'm going to extrude it up like this. Get the point. To extrude this one here. I'm going to hold shift and select all the points, and then I'll do Ctrl A to decrease or to decrease the thickness a bit so that we can extrude our fingers out. So when you select this point, in case you want to move it around, you can hit G and you can move it down or up, just any way you want. So next I'm going to extrude our fingers. I'll select this point E, then I'll extrude one finger, extrude the other, extrude, and then our thumb, extrude. Okay, so you can move them around to your liking by selecting an edge and hitting on G. Make sure you have your desired form. So next I'm going to select all these edges and add some subdivision to add an extra geometry. I'll select all these edges and I'll right click and add subdivide. Okay, so I'll pop this window up and I'm going to increase my subdivision the number of cuts to 2, so that I have this nice hand right here. So I'll tap out of edit mode, and this our nice hand that we have here. I'll tap into edit mode again. You can do Ctrl A to decrease the thickness of our hand a bit. Tap into edit mode. I think it's fine, since we are going for a cartoon hand. This hand will work fine for me. Obviously, you can take a little bit of time to shape the hand to your liking. Next, I'll hide my X-ray mode for a second. I'm going to apply my skin modifier and then my subdivision surface modifier, and I'm going to add an extra subdivision surface, and I'm going to shade it smooth like this, so that we have a smooth and obviously very long fingers guy. Yeah, let's give him a shirt. So we tap into edit mode once again, and let's make sure our face select mode is active. I'll hold Alt, click to select this loop, hold Shift, Alt, and make sure all these loops are selected. I'll do Shift D to duplicate, and then hit P to separate that geometry by selection. So now we have two cubes here. You have two cubes here, as you can see. So let me quickly rename it, not sure. And then this into hand. Okay. So we select our shirt, and you can see the origin is here. So let's change it. So we jump out of edit mode. Our shirt selected, we go to object, and then we set origin to geometry. So now the origin is moved here, and we can do S to scale it up a little bit like this. Okay, next let's add a solidify modifier here, and let's change the offset to 1. Let's increase the thickness a bit like this. Okay, so we have our shirt, nice and simple, and we have our hand. Okay. So next let's add our armature, so that we can rig and pose our hand later on in the tutorial. So we do Shift A, then armature, and I'm going to add an armature right here. So to see our armature, let's go to our object data properties, our viewport display, and then let's turn show in front. Let's turn this checkbox. Let's take this checkbox here, so that we can see our armature through the geometry. Okay, so I'll go to my right orthographic view right here. I'll make sure my armature is selected, and I'll go to edit mode, select this point, then G, move it to somewhere here. I'll do E to extrude it one more to somewhere here. Then I'll do E, I'll bring one bone here, E, another bone, and last one here. Select this bone, E, and I'm going to extrude it here. E, extrude 1, extrude. Obviously, you can move your bone around by selecting this point and hitting G. So I have my bones all my bones created. Next, I'm going to select all of them like this. Right click and subdivide. So I'm going to add another cut, so that we have 3 bones created from that single bone. Next, we tab out of edit mode, and let's parent our models properly, so that we don't get confused later on. So First, I'll select this shirt and hold shift and select my hand. I'll do Ctrl P and parent. So now if I move the hand, the shirt will move along with it. Next, I'll select my hand and hold shift and select my armature. I'll do Ctrl P once again. I'll go to armature default and with automatic weights. So now if I move my armature, the hand is going to move along with it. So to see that in action, let me select my armature and let me go into pose mode. So when I move, I hold G and move. You see the geometry of the hand moves along with my armature, my bone. So you can pose your hand however you want and have fun with your hand however you want. So next, let's parent our bones properly so that we can have right flow of movement when we want to pose our hands later on. So to do that, we're going to select this bone. This will be the main bone we are going to rotate later on. So we are going to parent these two to this, and the same apply to all of these. So select this bone, hold shift and select this. I'll do Ctrl Shift C to add constraint. We are going to add rotation constraint, and let's come to our constraint property and change the targets to local space and the owner to local space as well. And let's do the same for this. We're going to parent this to this. We do Ctrl Shift C, rotation and local space. So now if we rotate this bone here, these two will rotate along with it. So I'll do R and Z once again so that it moves in the local space. So you can see it moves with it in the natural flow. So I'm going to do the same thing for all of these. So quickly, let's go. Shift click, then Ctrl C, add rotation, change this, click this, shift click, local space. Yeah, so now we have our hand rig done and complete. So let's go to our object mode right here, and let's create a duplicate of all of these in our scene, since we are going to need two hands in our composition. So I'll hit A to select all and do Shift D to create a duplicate. Let's move it somewhere here. Let's do Shift M and let's add a new collection. So let's do it hand 2. Okay, so with my hand 2, I'll right click and I'll go to visibility. Let's do hide all inside so that we hide this second hand for a moment. Right, so make sure you don't forget to save your file before you continue. I'll do Ctrl S and I'll quickly create a new hand and save. So now we have our file saved and ready. So let's move ahead and let's continue. So next, let's create our phone. To do that, we do Shift A, mesh, and we add a cube. We hit slash to isolate our cube, and then let's do S and Z. Let's scale it in like this, and S Y. Let's scale it small like this. Let's do S Z and let's scale it in. S Y. You get this. Let's create a phone like shape. Alright, let's do Control A and let's apply our scale to it. Let's make sure our cube is selected. Let's rename it to phone and let's jump into edit mode. Our edge select mode selected. Let's hit this edge, shift select all the four corners, and let's add some bevel. So we do Control B for bevel, scroll the mouse wheel to add more bevel, up and down. As you can see, the bevel is not being applied properly, and the reason being is our scale is not applied. So to rectify this error, I'll do Control Z, jump out of object mode and hit N. We can see our scale is not properly applied. So with our object selected, we do Control A, and then we Control A, and then we apply our scale. So now the scale is properly selected. Jump into edit mode, all the edges selected. Let's do Control B once again. Let me see, we now have a proper bevel at the edges. You can control the width, the segments, so like 5, and everything here from this bevel pop-up window. So after that, I'll jump out of edit mode, and we are going to add a bevel modifier, and let's increase the segment to 4, and let's decrease the amount so that it's a little bit round and nice like this. Next, let's right click and shade smooth, and then let's add another subdivision surface modifier to smoothen out everything. Right, so let's jump into edit mode so that we can add a button to the phone objects instead of creating a separate object. So I'll make sure my phone is selected, and then I'll jump into edit mode like this. So we do Shift A, and then we add a cube, and then we do S to scale it down so that it's very small, tiny little phone. I'll do G, Y, and then I'll bring it out like this. So we do S, and then we scale it on the X axis. Now we have something like this. Next, I can do Shift Z, and then maybe I can stretch it up a bit like this. Okay, so next I'll hit N to hide this one, then I'll hit X like this, so that we have our right orthographic view, and then we can do G and then Z, and then we can bring it up to somewhere here. You can do Shift D to duplicate, and then lock it on the Z axis, and then bring it down like this once again. And then let's create a power button. To do that, we do Shift D once again, and we can duplicate it, and let's move it on the Y axis, and let's bring it somewhere here. Yes, so we have successfully created our button. So next, let's position our phone inside our palm, our cartoon hand. So to do that, I'll hit the slash to bring the phone, the hand once again, to unhide it, and then I'll turn on my gizmo here, move and rotate. This will help me position the phone easily inside our palm. I'll hold here and drag it to this side, and then I'll hold this edge and then bring it up like this, and I'm going to rotate something like this, and let's move it in so that it feels like our phone is inside the hand. So let me quickly hide this bone here. So I'll hide it for a second. Now we can see what we are doing clearly. Let me bring this up, rotate it a bit more. So basically, we are trying to position the phone inside the palm so that it feels real and natural, as you can see. So I think it's okay for me. Next, let's try and pose our hand so that it feels like the hand is wrapped around the phone. To do that, let's hide our gizmo once again. So let's hide our object gizmos, and let's select our bone. Let me bring it in front for a second, and let's jump into pose mode, and we're going to rotate this on the Z axis. So I'll make sure I select this bone right here. I'll do R and then Z, and it's going to rotate on the local Z axis like this. I'll do the same for this. R, Z. I'm going to rotate this one to like this as well, and I'll select this one as well. I'll do R, Z. I'm going to rotate it inside like this as well, and I'll select this, do R, Z, rotate it inside, R, Z, inside like this, R, Z, and I'll do G, X, now move it like this. Okay, so if the rotation is too much and it's cutting inside your phone, as mine is right now, you can select this object here, then you can hide, go and take this axis and it will make it straight, and then you can do R, Z to rotate just this axis, and you can do the same for this one as well. So I'll uncheck to make it straight, and then I'll do R, Z just to rotate on this axis like this. Next, when we are satisfied with our post, we will jump out of post mode once again, and let's hide this for a second, and let's select our phone once again, and let's bring our gizmos on, and we can further reposition our phone to make sure it's not clipping inside our hand like this. So next, I'm going to bring the second hand. I'll right click and I'll go to visible, and I'll go to show all inside. All right, so next we have our second hand. Let's quickly pose the second hand so that it looks like it's operating our phone here. So to do that, we select this armature here, and let's jump into pose mode once again. Let me hide my gizmos. So really quick one, R, and then Z. So it's set to the local axis, so it's been rotated on the Z of the local axis. R, Z, R, Z, so we have this. Jump into object mode once again. So now we have our phone and then our hand here. So next, let's set up our scene, add some materials, and then do our render. So I'll bring up another window here, and then I'm going to pull this window to the side and change this to the shader editor, and let's add a camera. So we do Ctrl Shift A, we add a new camera into our scene like this. We'll hit G to bring the camera somewhere here, and I'll go to this window view, I'll hit this icon right here. Okay, and I'm going to lock my camera to view. I'll hit N to hide it, and then I can scroll and position my camera however I want. So next, we can move a gizmo and position it into our scene and how we see fit. I'll do R to rotate, something like this. Obviously play around until you find something that works for you. So this guy, I'll do R, I'm going to rotate him somewhere here, so he's pointing, he's chatting on his phone. I can do G, Y, moving inside a bit, X, no, GX, moving back, just position him into your scene where you want, so you have the liberty to play around till you find what works best for you. So I'm fine. I'm going to hide everything here. I'll hit T to hide this. I'll scroll, and then I'm going to hide this as well, so that I can see my final render here and everything I do here. So I'll change from the viewport into shading this here, and change my render engine from EV to cycles. Let's change our device from GPU compute. I'm using a laptop and has a little bit of GPU, so I'm changing it to GPU compute, as you can see. So next, I'm going to add our background. So we do a plane, do S to scale it up like this, and let's add an HDRI to our scene. So I'll go to my shader window here. I'll select, change this to world, and I'll select my background. I'll hit Ctrl T to bring up this node tree here. It's been done for me by Node Wrangler, so if you don't have it, turn on, go to edit, preference, add-on, and then search for Node Wrangler here, and make sure you have this checkbox ticked, and it will be installed automatically into your scene. So I'll go to open, and I'll locate my HDRI here, this one here. I'm going to import it inside my scene so that it will light my scene. You can get an HDRI from HDRI Haven. It's absolutely free to use. That's why I got mine. So next, I'll select my background and I'll change this to object, and I'll hit new to add a new material to it. I'll change the base color to my desired color. It's this teal here. I'll select my hand and add the material if it's not added. If it's added automatically, I'll change the base color to somewhere here. Obviously, you can play around with the roughness, add maybe a little bit of roughness if you want, depending on the kind of style you're going for. I think roughness is cool, and I'm done. So I'll select my shirt, and I'm going to hit on this to create a new material. So when I hit, I can now give my shirt a different material like this, and I'm going to apply the same thing to this shirt here. So I'll select this shirt, hold shift and then select, then I'll do Ctrl L, and I'm going to link the materials. So now every changes I make to this material will be affected to these two. Next, our scene is done. You can position it however you like. Obviously, if you want, you can add an extra light just to give it an extra kick. So we can add an aerial light here, G to move it here, then I can just point it here and to give it an extra kick. You should play around and experiment, and I think that's the easiest way to learn more. So play around, experiment with the lights. You can try giving it different color and see what works for you, and do Ctrl S to save, see what works best for you. So when you are done with tinkering with all the properties and everything, next is render. So make sure our render engine is set to cycles. Our max sample, you can increase it. Obviously, the higher you increase, the more time it will take to render. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it at this. Make sure you have the noise tick, and then go to color management. Make sure you have the look set to high contrast. I find it gives it more contrast and more punchiness to the render. Next, you can select your hand and add some extra subdivision. So maybe you can increase your render subdivision to 3. So the more subdivision, the smoother the render gets and the longer it will take to render. You can select this and increase the subdivision as well. You can select your phone, give it a subdivision of 2 to increase the subdivision of the phone. And let's give it a nice material as well. Nearly forgot. Yeah, I think it's nice. Nearly forgot. So when all is set, you go to render, and then you hit render image. I have my final rendered image, and to save this image, you can go to image, save as, and locate the destination you want to save it at, and create a name. So I'll do hand illustration. You can save it either JPEG or PNG, or even OpenESR, JPEG, PNG, or TIFF file. So I'll leave it at PNG. I'll change the color to 16. Now I'm not going to put any compression on it. So after you're done, you just do save as image, and your final image is saved.